welcome to Through Kaleidoscope Eyes, a weekly show where we tell stories of unsung heroes one at a time within the LGBTQIA plus community and allies. We will also be discussing various topics with each special guest. I'm your host, LaCrosse Ortiz. Hi, everybody, and welcome tonight to the show. I'm LaCrosse, your host. This is Through Kaleidoscope Eyes. Make sure I got my banners and my stuff all together here. Sometimes I'm not together, and it doesn't take much to throw me off. But tonight, I'm really excited about our guest. I met this amazing, beautiful woman a few years ago. Just has such a sweet spirit and just such a gentle way, but fierce. And when I tell you this is one fierce woman, it's fierce. I have her bio here, and I'm just like, wow. And I'm like, should I go through the bio, or should I just let her tell the story? Because it's her story, and just reading it just doesn't do it any justice. So we're going to bring up onto the show Victoria Michaels. Hi.
Wow. Hi, what an interjection. Thank you very much.
I was thinking of reading a little bit, but I'm just like, you know what? This isn't going to do any justice. Like, they have to see you, hear you, and I think that's just isn't going to do enough. So, please introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you first for having me on the show.
Oh my God, yes.
It was when you asked, I was like, I would never tell you no for anything, but especially not something like this, because it's kind of within my realm of my college studies and my degree. So, and I want to wish you the best of luck with your venture on this.
Oh, thank you.
So my name is Victoria Michaels. For those of you who don't know me, I know there's a lot of people out there that do know me by my stage name,
right.
But I am all-American transsexual, but I want to specify that in my daytime life, I don't live by my stage name. I live by my legal name, which is Victoria Lavelle. And that's also the name that I write under and got my college degree under. So some people get confused on, well, what's the Lavelle? Well, Lavelle is my birth name. That was my birth name. So I know I sent you a long bio, LaCrosse.
Yes.
And I was like, well, she's probably going to kill me because, I'm a writer. I could write a book.
No, that's amazing.
But yeah, I said you could edit it, but do you want me to read it, or do you want me to?
Yes, absolutely. I would like you to read it because it's your story, and that's what I want. I want it to come from you.
Okay, great.
So, please.
I was, my name is Victoria Michaels, as I said, and I was born near Fort Dix Army Base in New Jersey, right at the height of the Vietnam War. It was 1972 was the year. And I was raised in a quaint little Victorian town in New Jersey called Pemberton Borough. And that was through the 1980s. Now, if you know anything about the Army or just the military in general, and the era, we're talking about a different time and era. It was a time when girls were expected to be girls and boys were expected to grow up and be men. And the term transgender was not known. Right. It might have been known medically, but it wasn't a loose term that people were familiar with. So at a very young age, I noticed that my peers could tell that I was different. And for some reason, I've always found masculine women are more accepted by society than feminine boys.
100% true.
So I always felt like I was at the bottom of the totem pole growing up. Especially, kindergarten through 8th grade. I knew I was different. But the things I was hearing, and please forgive my language, but these are terms, slurs that were used, right. Faggot, queer bait, I could go on and on. Oh, yeah. But you get the picture. And, as a kid at that young age, I didn't even know what half of those terms meant. But, as I progressed and matured and I became familiar with those terms, I couldn't identify with them. So I couldn't understand why people saw me as a homosexual male, because my mind and my body, just everything about me was feminine. And my mind, I guess, told me that my mind was wired as a female. I never had male friends. I always had female friends. I hated, my father tried to make me play baseball. That was a big
Oh
mistake.
no,
Yeah.
no.
So I was a cheerleader. I played with Barbie dolls. I spun a rifle in the color guard. I did everything that boys were not supposed to do,
I
especially in that era.
noticed. I did notice that you said that you were the first.
Yeah, the first male cheerleader at Pemberton Township High School. Or I wasn't the first male cheerleader. I was the first male to spin a rifle in the color guard.
Nice.
For the Pemberton Township Marching Band, which we were the Hornets. Go Hornets. So after graduating high school in 1990, I found my way to Philadelphia. And that was where, it was 1990, that was where I was first introduced to trans people. Not just drag, but trans people. I mean, I started to come out of my shell. I became active in the community, and I got to know, before I did drag, I got to know the entertainers, and there's legendary entertainers in Philadelphia like Sandy Beach. At the time, it was Sean Devereaux, Les Harrison, and Tinsel Garland. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's a big name from New Hope. Yeah. And so I kind of gravitated towards the drag community, and so, but I was scared because even though I knew I was a female on the inside, I didn't know how I could portray how I felt on the inside, how I could reflect that to the outer world. And a lot of it's fear.
Oh yeah.
Because, I up until that point in my life, I had experienced so much bullying and so much negativity from other people that I didn't want to invite more of that in. If anything, I wanted to escape that.
Right.
And so it took me 10 years of doing drag, which my story, ultimately, I left Philadelphia in 1991. I moved down south to Memphis, Tennessee. And that's where I really learned drag, was in Memphis. I mean, the Memphis drag, Southern drag is a lot different than Northern drag.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. And, good old Southern, well, you know what? Back in that era it was. Let me correct myself. Back in that time it was. Nowadays, it's like with the internet and Facebook and everything, you're just, a click away from somebody in Tennessee.
Right.
We're talking about a time when, we didn't have cell phones or Facebook or social media. So what was learned in the South was kind of kept in the South. Right. It wasn't like a click away. Nowadays you can turn on RuPaul's Drag Race and learn drag from sitting in your living room. But it wasn't that way back then. So I learned good old Southern, how to do Southern drag makeup in the South. And I ultimately wound up getting very homesick after 2 years and wound up back in Philadelphia, which was great for me because that's where I really blossomed as a drag entertainer. Mm-hmm. And I went on to win my first big title was Miss Gay Pennsylvania America. Oh, and then I won Miss Gay Philadelphia USA, and then I won Miss Pennsylvania USA in 1999, and then I won, I think, Miss Ohio Continental 2002. So I started to come out of my shell and blossom, but it wasn't until I would say about 8 years of doing drag that I actually finally had the courage to say, I'm comfortable enough now as Victoria to try to live this and be me. And it wasn't really until I started living as Victoria that I actually started bonding with people, because up until then, I think I kept, even though I was a drag entertainer and I had fans in the audience and stuff, I always kept people, at an arm's distance. And I think that a lot of that was the fact that I wasn't quite comfortable with who I was yet. Yeah. And, and when you're young, I'm sure I know I made mistakes and I burned bridges, but so I think, at that time in my life, it was the perfect time for my transition. Right. Because once I started my transition, there was no turning back. And then when you get into like about a year into my transition, and let me tell you, it's a little bit different, I think, for trans female to male than it is for trans male to female. And I'm not going to say it's easier because I don't know what I haven't lived your personal journey. But I know for me, like I wanted to hide my first year, and I would not come out of the house unless I was doing a drag show because my hair wasn't grown out. Right. And I was like, and I just started hormone therapy and my bust wasn't big, yet. And so I was like, you just worry. I think I worried so much about getting clocked or getting hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I could definitely agree with that because, and just segueing back to what you were saying, I think but not a lot. I'm not going to say a lot of transgender people, but I think some transgender people like ourselves, we started with drag because that was the only time. And it's not that it's about the drag. It's about, this is when you're comfortable and you're yourself. If that makes any sense. Like the only time I felt like myself was when I was in drag, which that ended up becoming a conduit for me to be able to transition. And now it's weird because like now I don't do as much drag as I used to because I'm living.
But that was your stepping stone.
Right. Exactly.
And kind of like your courage builder.
Exactly.
And that's what it was for me. Drag was a huge part of my becoming who I was. So when, I think the first 8 years of me competing in pageants or doing drag shows or doing the drag competition, they used to have a drag competition on Monday nights at the Cartwheel every Monday night. Those were like, I was finding myself and struggling, because people don't know they see the transition. And, and they love you when you're on stage, if you're a good entertainer and everything, but they really don't know that the whole journey that we walk. Yeah. And the fears and the phobias. And it's not just, will my family accept me? Will my friends accept me this way? But you have the fear of, am I going to be able to find work and keep a roof over my head? Mm-hmm. Am I going to be passable enough to where I don't wind up in a ditch somewhere? Right. And so all those fears held me back for years. But when I finally had the audacity and the courage to do it, it was full steam ahead. Right. Because I really felt like this is finally, I felt like I had done a complete 360 in life. And for the first time in my life, I had gained self-esteem. Right. And I actually found that as Victoria, I got along with people better. Right. Because I wasn't tense and struggling to find myself, Oh, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. And maybe it was the estrogen makes you softer. So maybe my estrogen made me softer. So maybe that helped me get along with people better. But
because like with me, a lot of people, like, they thought when I got on testosterone, I'm a very naturally aggressive person. I just am. I got a bad temper. I got that Latino temper. And everybody was yes, it's terrible. I'm short, but when I'm angry, I think I'm 6 foot. I'm that type of Latino, but I realized that, and everybody was so scared. They're like, oh my God, you're going to become more aggressive. You're going to become more, honestly, it leveled me. Really? Like testosterone ended up calming me down. It like brought me to this, like, I wasn't as angry. Like I wouldn't like freak out as much. It was just so different when I ended up on T, when mostly people end up getting more aggressive. I ended up going like the full opposite.
And I had people tell me the same thing. Other, girls that had started their transition or been on their journey a lot longer had told me, that when you start the estrogen, some girls go cuckoo, they say, and they lose their temper. But, I never had that issue. If anything, I just noticed that I got more sensitive to things, and don't put on a Hallmark movie because I will cry my eyes out, at every Hallmark moment on TV. Right. So yeah, it makes me emotional, and the estrogen also makes me want to be close to somebody. It doesn't matter whether it's male or female because it's not a sexual closeness. Right. It's just a need to be close to somebody, like clingy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I was on estrogen when I met you. And you remember that night in the hotel room? Yeah. And you sat right behind me and I started getting goosebumps. I said, oh.
And it's nice to be able, but you know what? That's also another thing is like bonding with other people who are walking your walk. Where normally, like, I'm not a touchy-feely person. I'm not. But I felt comfortable enough to be touchy, us just sit there and hang, and feel that, like, I guess, vulnerability or lack of fear, because we do live in fear constantly, fear of rejection, fear of people are going to look at us like we're whatever, we do live in that constant fear. And it's rare to find somebody that we could feel safe enough and say, hey, let's just hang. Let's just, be there and just be. It's so hard to find that.
It is.
So yeah, because I remember that night.
Yeah, we were in it was after the show.
Yep.
And Whitley was selling jewelry.
Yeah.
In her room, and we all gathered. Oh, it was a great time.
It was so fun.
Bethlehem. Well, no, not Bethlehem. Lebanon, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I video recorded the show that night.
Yep.
That was a great night, by the way. And I don't know if Whitley's out there. Hi, Whitley, love you.
She better.
Yeah, I bet she'll be tuning in soon. So
yeah.
So you said, I know you just touched base on the fear of rejection.
Yeah.
That's something that I think stays with you as a trans. It never goes away. That never goes away. So my journey from at the turn of the millennial, and my hair had finally grown out by about 2002. So I was super confident, and I had people in my ear telling me, you should go outside of Philadelphia and really expand your wings, because at the time, at 2002, I had been working at 2-4 Club, but they had a change in management, and they shifted everything to take a different route. And so I found myself out of work.
Oh.
Yeah. But hey, it happens. It happens. So I wound up going to Fort Lauderdale, Florida in January. And I can remember how beautiful the weather was when I got there. And the nightlife was so different than Philadelphia. And even the people, the entertainers, the gay and lesbian community in Florida, it was so different than what I had been used to in Philadelphia. And they were so welcoming. I mean, when I tell you the girls I work with in Florida, literally, if you really need it, they will give you the shirt off their back.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times they will make sure that you never spend a holiday alone.
Right.
If they hear, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? Oh, I'm home alone. Oh, no, you're not. You're coming over. And they, yeah. Oh, it's everybody watches out for everybody. And it's like a family. Right. And I know, like, at that point in my life, I was missing family because, my mom struggled with my transition in the beginning. And it wasn't like a rejection thing. Like, she didn't reject me. My mom wouldn't do it. My mom loves me. But I know my mom struggled with the thought of what she had done wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think she beat herself up over a lot. And I'm glad that she went and talked to someone, and someone that was, familiar with us.
Right.
And so, because I'm not sure that I had the right words to guide her in the right direction. And for a long time, Mom was afraid. My grandparents were still living. And they lived right next door to Mom. And of course, they helped raise my brother and I. And my grandfather was so old that my mom was afraid that if I had come home as Victoria, that might ultimately give my grandfather a heart attack. So, so my grandmother knew. Yeah, my grandmother knew, and she was supportive. But it was like we were keeping this secret from my grandfather because we really didn't know how he would react. I mean, he was retired civil service. He fought in World War II. But what was so amazing was I had come back from Florida and I did a holiday show out in Reading at a little nightclub called the Scarab. Okay. And we used to pack them in at the Scarab. Whitley and me and Alexis, we did the shows and we would bring in out of town guests. And literally you could not get a chair. Like, every table was reserved and it was wall to wall.
Wow.
And I was going to give up drag that night. I said, this is my retirement. I'm going to give it up. I was so discouraged because it was the holidays and I wasn't going to be able to go home for Christmas that year. And right before the show, my grandmother had called me and she said, what do you want for Christmas this year? And I said, Grandma, the only thing I want is I want you to tell my grandfather. Because I want to know. At that point, it didn't matter whether it was a yay or a nay. I just, not knowing was killing me. I would rather be rejected than not know. Yeah. And so my grandmother said, you know what? Oh, okay, give me some time and I'll get back to you. And the next time she called, she said, I went to your grandfather and I explained to him that Jeffrey became Victoria. And my grandfather said, of course he can come home. I always knew Jeffrey was different. And if Jeff wants to live as Victoria, then I'll welcome him home as a female. And my grandfather was great. He was one of my biggest supporters after that. So yeah. So see, it was a blessing because it's terrible to be in that position that you can't come home.
Yeah. As yourself.
Yeah. I mean, your family, your own family. And it wasn't a rejection thing. It was a fear thing of them not knowing how my grandfather would react. Right. So I'm glad that I nudged my grandmother to do that Christmas. And do you know, I went out on the stage in Reading, and the whole place, you could have heard a pin drop, and I had the microphone, and I told that story. And by the time I was done telling that story, and I said, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this year, Victoria's going home for Christmas. Everybody stood up, and there was not a dry eye in the bar. It was absolutely amazing that night. I will never forget that night in Reading.
That is wonderful. And that's, and these are sometimes stories we need to hear, because we hear so many stories of the opposite, and not everybody, you can't be scared to come out. You can't. And that's the worst part. It's like, sadly, like my father knew about me, but my mother never knew. And it's so sad that my father, before he passed away, he knew. He even drilled me about it. He's like, I know who and what you are. And, and then he just asked me, he just said, you got a lot of girlfriends? And I'm like, Pap, we don't talk about this. He says, I'm old. We talk about this, but he knew, but my mother never knew. And I was so fearful because she was so religious that I never even gave her a chance to reject me.
It's so sad because religion is supposed to be about love, and it's supposed to bring people together. And sometimes it has the reverse effect. Mm-hmm. And, that's just sad. Now, I'm spiritual, and I was raised in the Methodist church, and I loved going to church as a kid. Most kids don't, but I'll tell you why I like going to church, because it was the one place I could go as a kid and not be called a faggot.
Right.
Yeah. And even now, don't get me wrong, some of the people in the youth group probably used it outside of the church, but at least while we were in church in the youth group, I never had to have a fear of being called names or be scrutinized.
Because it wasn't tolerated, right?
Yeah. So I've always kept a close relationship with God.
Right.
And it breaks my heart when I hear politicians on TV, utilize God against trans people.
Yeah. And they're like, my favorite one is, God didn't make a mistake. He made you the way you are. And you should just accept that. And I'm like, well, God made you a brunette, but you're a blonde. God made you with crooked teeth, but you have straight teeth. I said, and everything that your God does for the sake of us to go past that obstacle. It's supposed to make us a better person. If you're born a cripple, or I hate using that word, but if you are crippled, you have to learn to live with that. Well, we are learning to live with the hand that we are dealt with. So what? Don't give them crutches. Don't give them a wheelchair. Just let them sit there.
I mean, the whole gender.
It's all about us becoming who we're supposed to be.
Well, and it's us being comfortable within our own skin.
Right.
It's unfortunate that people don't get it, but I do have compassion, because I'm not sure I would completely get it if I didn't walk this journey.
Right.
And I'm no doubt there are people out there that believe that it's a choice. Yeah. Sure, it's a choice. Every morning we wake up, we get to decide what we're going to wear. Sure. But the interesting thing is, when I was in college, we went back. I did some research, and I went back, and I found that, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, right about the turn of the century, that boys actually wore dresses and pink.
Yeah.
And girls, the color for girls was blue. So the whole concept of gender itself is a social construct.
Yes.
So the expectations are really what society puts on you, or what we absorb in the media as children.
Absolutely.
Now I'm going into sociology, and I don't want to do that. We'll lose our audience. But it gets really deep, when you pull away the layers and look. So I know that I favor pink. Now, do you favor blue? Because
Just because you're told to?
yeah,
You
I
know,
think
I mean, like me, I'm a person. I love pink. I think pink and purples and all that, and like pastel yellows. And I'm that asshole that I turn around and I'm like, it looks good on me. That's why I like it. I mean,
now
like
bet
I
you
don't
have.
want to get caught up in that whole gender thing.
There you go. So you have ties in every color.
Oh Lord, I have 300 ties.
Yeah, I love pink. I love
Mhm.
everything pink, but I also like pink on a man, and not
Yeah,
not necessarily a gay. I like to see pink on a straight man. I
yeah,
just think it looks good.
exactly.
I'd like to see the whole social construct, the build up, and the whole philosophy of men should look a certain way and girls should dress a certain way. I mean, when you go back in biblical times, Jesus had long hair and wore
Hmm.
flowy robes.
You're right.
But if a young boy were to do that today, he would go through what I went through when I was in school.
Right, right.
You'd be ridiculed and scrutinized.
Yep,
So
absolutely. Well, we're going to take a minute here to give some hellos. Here is Aunt Deb. I don't know if you remember Aunt Deb. She used to come to all the shows.
yes,
So, my wife.
Catherine. Oh, hi, Catherine.
There is now. She said. She said. Now we got to go to Memphis, Nashville to see the Southern drag. She just wants to go to Nashville. Okay, that's.
Hey, Nashville's a great city.
Yeah, I
Great
keep
city.
hearing that.
Big
There is
town.
my friend Boricua in the house. That's a good friend of mine. Oh, here goes Whitley.
Oh, Whitley. Hi, Whitley. I knew Whitley would be on.
Yep. And then she said the Scarab brings back many memories. Then we
Yeah.
have Ken, Sandy. She said your grandpa sounds like a cool guy.
Oh, thank you.
We have Kendra, if you remember Kendra.
Oh, of course. Where
Yep.
Kendra performs, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Okay. Yeah. Hi,
she
Kendra.
stopped in. So, and I'm sure there's more watching. It's just they haven't commented yet. But with that, we're going to take a quick break because I got to do my little commercials here.
Oh, I didn't know you had commercials. Cool.
Yes, I have little commercials, so that'll give you a minute if you got to run to the potty or anything like that. Give you a minute. And we will be right back. All right.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFEDB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
More from WLFEDB Radio Network after this.
WLFE Digital Broadcast Network is on TV. You can watch all of our shows on WLFE-DB.com. Check out our channels. Paranormal View for all of your paranormal type shows. LGBTQ Friends for all of our LGBTQ shows. Variety Unlimited for all other shows. It runs 24/7 right on WLFE-DB.com. You'll even catch the lives, all in one place. Never miss an episode, past or future. WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows. Search for your favorite shows like Where's My Sage, Inside the Drag Closet, Across the Pond, Everything Yet Nothing, Paratalk Radio, Step into the Paranormal, The Creepy Parlor, Just Cindy, and more. Now you won't miss an episode. Remember, follow Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Make sure you subscribe and follow your favorite WLFEDB radio shows. You can find our shows where you listen to your favorite podcasts, like Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more.
WLFEDB Radio is looking for podcasts to join our family. You don't have to fit any strict genre. We're a plethora of shows. If you're looking to jump on a growing network, then contact us at WLFEDBradio@gmail.com.
Wow, Amazon Music just got a whole lot better. Your favorite shows from WLFEDB Radio can now be found there. Yes, we are on Amazon Music, found under podcasts. Download the app, find podcasts, and search all of your favorite shows. Shows like Where's My Sage? Across the Pond, Everything Yet Nothing, Skeptical Help Bar, The Creepy Parlor, Just Cindy, and much more. Now you don't have to miss an episode ever. Amazon Music is WLFEDB Radiofied.
Okay, we're back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Peekaboo.
Well, it's funny. I found it interesting. You're from Tennessee. I'm not Tennessee. I just read Tennessee. I want to go to Tennessee. That was where that came from. You're from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. I'm from Vineland, which isn't too far from Pemberton.
No.
Nope. Yep,
We're
I'm
both
from
South
Vineland.
Jersey.
Born and raised. And it was so funny. And I'm like, yeah, during the Vietnam War, I was 1968. So.
Is that when you were born?
Yep, 1968.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were older than me.
Yes.
You don't look it.
Coconut oil.
Oh, is that right?
Food of the gods, let me tell you. You can use it for everything.
I'm going to order a life supply.
I tell you, that's what I use coconut oil.
Bathe in it, girl.
I have my wife addicted to it now. It's like every time I'm literally the poster child for coconut oil because that's the first thing. They're like, oh, my skin, coconut oil. It's an astringent and it's a moisturizer. While you're in the shower, just slab it on you. Just all over. It's amazing.
I'm going to give it a shot. Does it smell good too?
Actually, it has really no scent. It has no scent. And what I love about it is it's the only oil that doesn't stay on your skin. It literally, your skin will like suck that up, like, because I don't know what it is. Your body just
see. I've been using a vitamin E oil,
mm-hmm.
And it does the same thing. It's not like baby oil where you put it on and it still be there an hour later. And it's greasy. No, your skin really absorbs it, and it makes you so soft.
Yep.
Yeah, and it doesn't have a smell to it, so maybe I'll use the coconut oil. I thought for sure coconut oil would smell like like a pina colada.
No, honestly, like sadly, when it's the oil, you don't really smell it at all. Look, everybody, I have everybody here. There goes my wife, laughing my ass off, always with the coconut oil. There's Whitley. I love coconut oil. I turn Whitley onto it too. Oh, easiest way to take off her drag makeup.
Now, do you get it at Dollar Tree?
You could get it at Dollar Tree. You can get it anywhere. Tree.
I've seen it there. I've seen
anywhere. And
that's where I get the vitamin E oil.
Yeah. Yeah, just get it you could get it at the Dollar Tree. Same thing there. It's a little bottle. I usually just go and get the big old
jumbo bottle.
Yeah, I just get the big old thing. But I mean, if in a pinch, if I don't have any, I just run to the Dollar Tree and I'll get me a small one just to keep with me.
So where do you get the jumbo? Where do you get the
supermarkets?
Really?
Yeah, supermarket, Walmart.
Yeah,
it's great anywhere.
Well, I will keep my eye out for that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
No, seriously, I'm going to get the like I said,
get
honey,
the jumbo.
If it'll make me shine and glow like you're doing and keep me young, I'm ready to dive right in.
Well, I have somebody, he said right here, he said, be careful with coconut oil. Just make sure you don't have an allergic reaction to it because some people are allergic to coconut oil. So, I mean, that's no different than somebody with like peanut allergens, like a peanut oil or something. So just make sure, try it a little bit on your hand. You don't feel anything, you're good to go.
Very good advice. Yeah, because I don't want to wake up the next day and have pimples.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And have it break out. That's the worst.
But the good thing is like I have no allergies and I'm not really, the only thing that breaks me out is chocolate. So I stay away from chocolate. Other than that.
Yeah. No, I'm lucky too. I don't really have much of allergies on anything. So now we've gone through your pageant. Which, that's what I wanted to show. I want everybody to see these amazing pictures. I mean, look at this. Just stunning, stunning, stunning. Now, here we're going a little retro. Tell me about that.
Well, that was before my transition. So that That is Miss Gay, Pennsylvania, when I was reigning as Miss Gay, Pennsylvania, USA in 1999.
And,
Yeah. Yeah, and the hair was by hairdresser down in Florida, Calvin in Orlando did that hair. It was with the
whole
yeah, it was before I had my own hair, and I was actually
6 feet off your head.
yeah. And it was before my transition, so I was still, my male. Anyway, you know what it's like. You've worked with both trans and
yes.
No, I'm not. Yeah, there are trans out in Lebanon. Yeah.
Performers.
Yeah.
There's a couple. There's a couple, not as many. I think a lot of people, when they finally transition, they leave the scene.
Really?
I've seen it pretty common. They end up leaving the scene because it's like, okay, I had gone for master male illusionist. I can't go for that now. I can't call myself an MI.
Oh yes,
because it's not an illusion anymore. This is how I'm living my life. So I guess it's like at that point, you're not really in drag anymore. But I think that's
debatable.
When, right, because that's when I think you just have to go bigger, because drag is an art form and it's about going big.
Mm-hmm.
And with me, what I do is now I'm just like, I stick with my characters. I just do characters because the characters, like if I'm Edward Scissorhands or something like that, then it's drag. But if I just go out in a beard.
See, for me, if you were an established entertainer before you transition and you have your following, it's hard for me to believe that a community where we struggle for acceptance and let's face it, we have preached for acceptance since the beginning of time. Right. It seems to amaze me that they would turn you away or tell you you're not welcome here anymore because you transition. But I know there are rules and regulations to every pageant and contest. So like with the Miss Gay America system, they want total boy to female. Right. But some of the smaller contests that, you don't go anywhere. And I think that if they really wanted, they could maybe expand their boundaries someday. And I think they will. I think they will if you're patient with them. Because I found, like, in the beginning, some told me no, but then they ultimately wound up saying, oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we would like to have you come in and compete. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how I figured. Like, with me, now I don't compete anymore. I'm just like, I'm too old. I'm not competing. I mean, maybe later on down the line I might, but as it stands right now, I'm just like, no. I just want to put my characters out there. I want to have fun and I want to dance around and I want to have fun. That's it.
Yeah, competition is you got to really be devoted to it, and it's a lot of work, tedious work, and let's face it, it's not cheap.
No.
So you get to a point where, like, I won so many things that I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't have really anything else to prove to anybody.
Right.
Because I always felt like the whole reason why I started doing pageants was because I wanted, you wanted, how do I say it? Like the first pageant girl I ever saw in the drag world was Mary Margaret at the Cartwheel New Hope. And I couldn't have been more than, I might have been in my late 17 years old, early 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And I was so wowed by how I was starstruck by how many people liked her.
Right.
And so, I was fresh out of high school where I was not popular at all. Right. And then I see Mary Margaret in her crown as Miss Cartwheel and how everybody liked her. And so I don't know how I got this thought in my head that if you win pageants, people will like you. I wasn't so much the spotlight. I just wanted to be liked.
Yeah.
And what I learned is, like, when you start at a young age doing drag, when you win, not everybody likes you, especially all the girls that did not win that night. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets ugly.
And then they go back and tell their friends they're hating on you, and then their friends, and so I don't think, looking back now, if I had to do it different, I would have made friends first and then competed.
Yeah. Because that is something, sadly, that does run a little notorious within the community. And that's why I want to stick away from pageants, because I won 6 titles. That's enough.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And you know what? They're in a little box. They're in a little box, and I keep them there, and I'm very proud of them. But at the end of the day, at this point, I'm pretty much established that I don't need to compete anymore. I don't have to prove anything. I do my best every time I go out there. I try my best and leave it at that. Call it a day. And if I do great, I do great. And if I fudge up the performance, who cares? I'm not being docked on it.
Well, that was probably a stepping stone to what you're doing now with the show, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, it started one way so that I could live like this. The only time I could be a man was when I was doing that. To now I'm living my life. Now I'm like, oh, now I got to step up my game. I can't just, like I said, go out there in a beard and a tie. That's just me lip syncing. That's not really. So I'm just like, we got to game on now. So,
well, you know what? I'll tell you, because I've done drag 30 years, and I'll tell you, at least for me, and hopefully for you, it comes. You get it kind of like as you get older, it comes in waves. Like,
yeah,
I don't think I ever wanted to do drag to the point where I had to do it 5 or 6 nights a week. I've never wanted it. No, it's just because you know why? I don't like the mess.
Yeah,
I am immaculate in my home, and I when I come in from a show, I can't just jump into bed. Everything has to be organized and back where it belongs and clean, because Mama does not want to wake up to a mess the next day.
No,
we don't do messes, and I'm not gonna go out to the car the next morning and retrieve it. No, it all has to come out that night. So yeah, drag for me, like you start 2 hours before you arrive at the bar. And then you spend another 2 hours cleaning it all up when you get home. So an 8-hour shift at the bar is actually, add 4 hours to that, it's actually a 12-hour shift,
Yeah.
So, but the times I did it, I loved it. I loved it, but I was never the one that wanted to make a full-time career out of it, let's say.
No. Same.
Which leads me up to the next point in you want me to continue my journey. So after moving to Florida, I was embraced by one of the drag mothers in Florida, Electra, who is a former Miss, she's a National Entertainer of the Year. And she's also a former Miss Florida. And she owned a restaurant in Sunny Isles, Florida called Madam's Restaurant. And she kind of saw that I was the new girl in town and didn't really have a mother. So she adopted me, and she took me in, and she gave me my first job in Florida at Madam's Restaurant. And working with her for several years kind of coached me along until I competed for Miss Florida and won in 2007. And that has been the highlight of my drag career, was the Miss Florida Prom, because that pageant is like a national pageant in itself.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the biggest pageant in Florida, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the longest running female impersonator pageant in existence. It was around I believe it was around 1 year before Miss Continental.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have a huge sorority of winners, and so I reigned from 2007 to 2014. That's a whole story that I'm not even going to get into. But I reigned for 7 years, which is a long reign. But I will tell you, every gay pride parade and everything any event that they needed Miss Florida to appear for, I was there. All 7 years. I was in all 7 gay pride parades. Never, and there were girls who said, Miss Florida's never coming back. You need to bury that crown and whatever. Nope. I kept that torch.
There you go.
I knew Miss Florida was too big. It was not going away.
Right.
Miss Florida just needed a little rest for a while.
Right.
And now Miss Florida is back and bigger than ever before. It's run by Allison Thomas. And do you know Allison?
No.
Oh, well, Allison is a force to be reckoned with. But Allison is the mother of the Miss Florida pageant. So, and Scott Holland, who runs the Latino, he is the producer of Noche Latina in Florida, which is Latin Night in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, Miss Florida actually is coming up. It's coming up, I believe, the first week in October. I'm going to have to check that before we go off so we can promote it. But so, it was about, I had given up my title as Miss Florida. I crowned Brittany Moore 2 more years. In 2016 was the Pulse nightclub shooting. Now, I don't know how that affected you, but.
No, I think everybody in the LGBT, we all just like froze. We were so shook.
I was in complete and utter shock because that was close. That was home for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have happened anywhere too. It was like so random. And at that time in my life, I didn't know if this was, because remember, this was about the time that Trump was coming, his star came quick.
Yeah.
And he was stirring up a lot of hate and a lot of things from the past. And I just thought I had the fear of a copycat. Did you have that fear?
Well, I think everybody was fearful of that because if it the way that it happened there, it's like, and you couldn't go like we had the tally ho here. So it was scared to even go into there because what is somebody going to come in and do that here is, it was a very terrifying time.
It was. And I know Philadelphia had canceled the gay pride. I think it's the first time they ever canceled it too. Yeah. And then there were other cities that said, that's letting the terrorists win. We're not going to do it. Right. We're going to go ahead and do ours. And, hey, I commend everybody who made the decision what was right for them.
Right.
I don't think there was any right or wrong way to handle it. Mm-hmm. But for me, I got scared and I started analyzing everything in my life. Like, I was working at Boardwalk. That could have so easily been Boardwalk Bar or Discoteca in Miami, because this guy lived in Jupiter, Florida. The shooter, he lived in Jupiter, which was right in between Orlando and Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
He could have just driven south instead of north and come, and it was so random that it could have been any bar in the United States. So I was so scared. I put everything in storage and left Florida.
Wow.
And gave up nightlife. And I said, I want to change in life. So the terror attack happened in June 2016. And by August 2016, I was back in Delaware and enrolled in college.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't regret doing it at all because I loved my experience in college. And I'll tell you all about it in a second. But that was really the main motivator behind my stepping away from the drag stage. Oh, now, I did one show for Lisa Thompson in Philadelphia, and I judged the pageant, I think around 2017. But other than that, I've been off the stage. And I have to say, you got me together tonight, mister. Yeah, you got me together because I have not done anything entertainment wise tonight. Wow. And I'm like, I realized how much stuff I am missing. I didn't even have hairspray. And then I'm like, I don't have hairspray. I went to put lashes on and the lash glue was dried up. It's so old. There's nothing. I was like, oh my God.
This can't be.
Yeah, because I was always together with my drag. Right. Oh, there is so much stuff. I really have to go back to. I mean, so much stuff was packed, and I pulled it out, and literally an hour before the show, I'm like, he's gonna kill me because there's no left. No. But I said, you know what?
This is just about you, and you're more than drag. You're more than just drag. This is about you.
Thank you. And I'm so worried that other
drag
people
is drag is such a small piece of who we are. I get it. It's the one that's most exposed, and people see the most of that. And I think that's the problem, is that people are so busy seeing the entertainer that they don't see that there is a whole life behind that 3 minutes on stage. There is a whole life.
Yeah.
And you're more than the drag. I want you, not the entertainer. I want who you are, and share that. And for people to see that, that's more important.
Well, good. I'm glad. I wasn't sure what people's expectations were going to be tonight. And I'm like, I haven't done drag in so long. And I don't even I'm so used to doing the big hair and the big jewelry. And I was like, no, I just, that's not where I'm at in my life right now.
Right.
So to do that, I thought, no. And I knew because you're trans, I knew that you would not be upset either way.
No.
I knew that. And then I had to give myself a little wiggle room in case anything, went wrong before I went to log on. Because my luck, my Wi-Fi would be down. Like, that's what I was like. My worst nightmare last night when I went to bed, I said, I know something's going to happen tomorrow. Like, the Wi-Fi is going to be down or my computer is going to crash.
Oh, well, I'm not going to lie. I was sweating a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, we got 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, I got a paper here. Okay, I'm going to read this.
I was not going to let you down. And I
will read that whole biography all the way through until she logs in.
Well, you knew I was on it because we confirmed an hour before.
Yes.
But yeah.
But it's like the little bit that was happening. I was like, oh shit.
There was a little catastrophic event right before showtime, and I know I knew you were getting nervous because I was reading your messages, and I'm like, Mister, I got you. Don't worry. But you couldn't hear me. But I did literally got logged in 2 minutes before showtime. Yeah. And
look at how smooth that went.
Yeah. No, we literally went right into it, and nobody would know unless we were telling them right now. Like now,
exactly. Now, yeah, damn it, we shouldn't have said anything anyway because we really looked together.
If they only knew.
So you ended up getting your degree.
I did. I went to Delaware County Community College in Media, Pennsylvania, and my very first semester. I did what my passion for college, or my passion outside of the drag world, is journalism and news. My first passion, I have to tell you, was weather. Anybody that went to school with me as a kid knows that my passion in elementary school was weather. Because in 7th grade, my teacher knew in 7th grade, everyone knew I liked weather, so she let me give the weather report during the class meeting every Friday. I drew a little map, and that was why, I'm doing the weather on Fridays. But that ultimately led to, weather is, of course, goes with news and traffic and everything. Right. So I joined the newspaper staff in college, and I'm going to be totally raw with you and honest. Like, I didn't know what to expect when I joined. I had zero expectations other than to be a reporter. And before going back to college, I wrote editorial columns for South Florida Gay News.
Oh.
But I had no journalism experience before that, and certainly no education. So I really, to be honest, I guess I was a good writer because they allowed me, and they paid me. Right. But when I actually got into college and started learning journalism, I said, wow, I didn't realize how much stuff I really don't know about the industry.
Right.
But as a trans person, I had no expectations. I just thought, this is going to be a great experience because when I wrote for the gay newspaper in South Florida, they only let me write about trans topics.
Okay.
So I was, I didn't have a lot of freedom to write about the things don't get me wrong. I care about trans issues. Right. And I love doing it. But I also, every once in a while, want to be able to, write about, I also like politics.
Right.
But this is what I was told. And I don't remember who said it to me, but it was someone on the staff in Florida said to me, well, our readers are gay men, our demographic are gay men in their 50s and 60s, and gay men in their 50s and 60s don't care about the political views of a tranny. Yeah, that's
not cool.
And, maybe he could have worded it a little differently. Yeah, I know all about demographics now, and I get it. Not cool.
Yeah, definitely. Like, he could have stated, I get it, 50s, whatever, but he could have just stated, this is the demographic that, like, ahead of time, and not just say not cared for your opinion or not cared for what you were willing to write. Like, choose words wisely,
But I can tell you the person, anyway, I can tell you it wasn't meant to be vicious or cruel.
Right.
It was, but the way I perceived it was like, oh, wow. Like, that was like, a heart through the
Yeah.
dagger, like, because then I never thought of myself as being in a really tiny box as a writer. But
Right.
anyway, so in college, it was the first time that I could really write on almost anything you want. You could pitch anything in college.
Right.
And so I was happy just to be a reporter, and I would stay late on editing day, on print day. I would be the last person out of there. And when we went there on press day, we didn't get out of there until after midnight.
Oh, wow.
So I was in class from 8 a.m. until after midnight on press day. But that was the way that I really learned the full scope of how a newspaper is put together.
Wow.
And then by 2019, well, first I had covered the Super Bowl Pray for the Eagles, and I wound up winning Best Photo Story at the Keystone Press Awards. Yeah. And then by 2019, our editor graduated, and the professor came to me right before we were to have a farewell dinner for the outgoing editor. And she said to me, I would like you to be editor. Would you accept the position?
Oh, wow.
I couldn't believe it, because I never in a million years expected that. I never, ever. Like, it wasn't even on my radar. I just assumed because I was trans that it would never happen.
Right.
So it was like, yeah, it took a minute for that to sink in, but wow, yeah, of course I'll accept it. And that was the highlight of my grad. That becoming editor was looking back now, it was a bigger moment than actually graduating itself.
Wow.
Because it's like, you know how it's like I was the first. I was the first ever trans editor, and that I even know of. I'm not even sure there's a trans editor anywhere else, unless it's a trans publication.
Right. Right.
So, and then you're talking about, like, I know it's a college paper, but it's a heterosexual paper. It's not LGBT. Now, don't get me wrong. I made her a little more colorful while I was editor. Yeah, because I made sure all the LGBT events were covered properly.
Right.
Yeah, and I gave them prime spots in the paper. Like, LGBT coming out day got the centerfold. And
there you go.
We did it in color.
They're like, we're going to throw us in there some way, shape, or form. We're getting in there.
Yeah, and it was color. And then Transgender Day of Remembrance, that was covered for the first time ever while I was editor. And we wound up having the largest newspapers. I produced the largest newspapers in the college history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Before I was editor, the newspapers were 20 pages. When I was editor, they were 28 pages. Yeah, we went up to 28.
Wow.
So there were a lot of things. Oh, wow. I had the freedom to play around with different things, and I loved it. Now the only thing is, now that I've graduated and my degree is in journalism, from being editor, I realized that how many more passions I have outside of writing.
Right.
Because now I really love the editor position. I really love editing. I liked having control over how the graphic, the whole layout of the paper, how it looked visually.
Right.
And I'm a nitpicker, so I have an eye, for everything. So I would tell our graphic designer, we'll move this and switch this and let's do this and do that. And so we won at the Keystone Press Awards. We won Best Newspaper Layout and Best Graphic Design. And then I took also the 2020 Best Photo Journalist Award again for my coverage of the Joe Biden kickoff campaign in Philadelphia.
Nice. Well, see, they needed the eye of a woman. That's what they needed.
Yeah. Well, I guess they needed the eye of a trans woman or a gay woman, because
it was a matter of
females that were there were two female editors before me.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's I think the edge I have was my experience, I guess, in the gay community. Even though I'm trans, I still say I have a gay eye.
Right. Yeah. How many guys actually really wear ties and shirts? Now it's like such a. But
listen, I've been in high school. I loved the vest. Vests were big in 1990 when I graduated high school.
But at that point, it was gender. Like, I wear it like an old man now. Like,
I don't look like it. But see, I'm from a different generation. But no, you do not look like an old man. Don't put that label on yourself.
But you look
very handsome. Thank you. And very passable. Like, I would not know if I didn't meet you at that drag show. I would
never
not
know. Nope.
Not
Nope.
me. So
You don't know how many
already know that, though.
people, like, God love Whitley, that she has to endure that she's like, you know, they'll be like, there'll be guys and they're gay and they're like, they'll talk about me and she's like, well, and not that she wants to tell my story, but it's like, don't bother, you know, because, you know, in the sense, like, they are not attracted to females in any way, shape, or form. And just being transgender, that kind of throws a wrench in it because, you know, sadly, Whitley will have to say, well, he's trans. And they'll be like, no, I would have never guessed it.
Oh,
you know,
I never thought about that. But of course, like, I have that with gay women.
Yeah.
That don't know at first, and they're attracted to me. But then, of course, once they find out, then it's like,
yeah. It's like,
so you have it too, just from gay men, and how interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, it would be that way for you. Now, can I ask about your wife? Because I have not met your wife. When I met you, you were single.
Yes. My wife is very straight.
Very straight.
Very straight. Very straight. Also, I mean, she is like pan in the sense but with me, she doesn't see gender. She just sees a man. She doesn't see anything else, despite the physicalities. She looks past all that. She just sees me. She sees a man, and she just loves the human being that I am, you know, but she is not attracted to women in any way, shape, or form. So, because a lot of people be like, oh, well, then she's lesbian. No, she's not lesbian because she's with me. I'm a man. Like, this is not hard. This is not complicated. And God love her that she has to go through that. But, you know, she loves men and I'm a man, and she doesn't treat me any different. So she's just a gem. She is definitely a very rare breed.
Oh my God, she does sound like a keeper, because just what you just said, like, she doesn't treat you any different. She treats you as you should be treated.
Exactly.
And until the rest of society gets that, you know, you're going to find it through her, and that's a blessing that you found that.
Yeah, it is.
Every once in a while, we trans females, when we meet someone romantically, that's how it is. Like the men, now society will label them gay because they're with a tranny, right?
Right.
But the reality is, and I can tell you, because I've been trans for years now, that the men that will be in a relationship with a trans woman, they don't want a man. They're not attracted to anything manly at all. They don't, you know, nothing gay turns them on. Right. They would actually prefer to be disconnected from the gay community, you know, and just date the trans girl. And the more passable, the better it is for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It definitely is a double-edged sword, because it's like, okay, I am in the LGBT community. The T, that's me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So no matter which way, we can't get out of that. But at the same token, you know, I don't want to be treated as I'm gay, because I'm not gay. I'm a man and I love women. I mean, I call myself pan because I just love femininity. I am just not attracted to masculinity. I'm only attracted to femininity. Big difference. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't date a trans woman. Back then, I would have dated a trans woman. I didn't care. I'm attracted to femininity. Everything else you can work around. Everything else, you work around it. It is what it is, you know. And if you love that person, do you love their heart or do you love their genitalia?
Right.
So let's you can get past all that. It's not a big deal. So, which sadly, we are at the end of our show, and I was having such a good time. It was gonna go quick. Yeah, it did. It's already 8:00. I'm like, wow. That went.
Yay!
Yes. And I want to thank everybody who came on. Thank you, Victoria. Yeah. You are an amazing human being. I adore you.
You too.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this for me. My pleasure. And hopefully I'll get you back on at some point, because this was a great chat. I'm sure we could start talking about lots of things.
Amen. Yes, indeed.
So I definitely want to have you back on, and then we could just start hitting issues. That would be incredible.
Anything I could do. I'm just I'm a text message away.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and hope to see you next week. I think my guest next week is... Who is my guest? I got to look. Chase Watson. That's my guest next week. Another fellow trans brother, which I'll be excited to hear his story and have him share his story. So,
no more masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more masks.
No more masks.
I'm going to go enjoy my maskless night.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Well, I don't leave the house, so I'm enjoying a maskless night. So,
look, we have a similar curtain, too. Did you see? I copied
what's your background?
I have a train.
Oh, I got New Orleans. This is
I collect trains.
Oh, that's very cool. I got New Orleans, Bourbon Street.
I saw that in your last video, and I said, "Oh, with that, I'll try mine behind me because I didn't know what else." So cool.
Whatever works. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and you guys have a good night.
Good night.
And stick around, Victoria, because I'll end the broadcast, but we'll still be in the room.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode on Through Kaleidoscope Eyes. I sure do hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to the show. See you next week.